The pocket watch had stopped at exactly 11:03 on that terrible day 10 years ago. Thomas could still feel its weight in his coat pocket as he walked toward the misty lake, though he hadn't wound it in a decade. The engraving on its cover, "To my son, may your time be blessed," had long since faded, just like his father's voice in his memory. Today, Thomas would finally decide whether to bury the watch in the lake's dark depths or carry its burden forever. He knew this choice would change everything. Thomas had been carrying two things since the war ended: his father's pocket watch and the crushing guilt of being the sole survivor of his unit. The watch had been a gift the night before deployment when his father pressed it into his hands with trembling fingers. "Time is the most precious thing we have," the old man had whispered. But time had become Thomas's enemy when the explosion tore through his comrades at precisely 11:03. The watch survived untouched in his pocket while 12 men died around him. After the war, Thomas drifted from town to town, taking any job that required strong arms and no questions. The watch went everywhere with him, its frozen hands a constant reminder of that fateful moment. He tried leaving it behind many times on a park bench, in a diner, even dangling it over a bridge, but always snatched it back at the last second. The thought of losing it filled him with panic, even as its weight dragged him deeper into isolation. One bitter winter, Thomas arrived in a lakeside village where the water was so still it perfectly mirrored the sky. There he met Mara, the elderly woman who managed the fishing docks with hands as rough as tree bark. She hired him to mend nets without asking about his past, paying him in hot meals and comfortable silence. For months, they worked side by side, Mara's quiet presence the closest thing to peace Thomas had known since before the war. But she noticed everything: how Thomas's hands shook when the church bell chimed 11, how his breath caught at 3 minutes past the hour. One evening by the fire, the watch slipped from Thomas's pocket as he reached for his tea. Mara picked it up carefully, running her thumb over the tarnished cover before handing it back. "Some things grow heavier the longer we carry them," she remarked, her eyes reflecting the flames. Thomas felt his throat tighten. "It's all I have left of them," he confessed, the first time he'd spoken of his past. Mara studied him for a long moment before saying, "No, child, it's all you're choosing to keep." The next morning, before dawn, Mara woke Thomas and led him to her rowboat. They glided across the glassy water in silence until reaching the lake's deepest point. Mara set the oars down with a quiet thud. "Your choice," she said simply. Thomas clutched the watch, feeling the cold metal bite into his palm. The screams of his dying comrades echoed in his ears. The weight of the watch seemed to grow until he feared it might drag him overboard. Then, with a sudden release, he let it slip through his fingers. The splash was smaller than he expected. The watch disappeared instantly, leaving only widening ripples that soon smoothed to nothing. Back on shore, Mara pressed a newly mended fishing net into Thomas's hands. "Fish only swim forward," she said. "We should too." As Thomas worked that day, he realized something remarkable. His shoulders felt lighter, as if an invisible burden had dissolved. The past remained, preserved in the lake's dark depths, but his hands were finally empty. And empty hands, he realized with growing wonder, were free to hold new things like tools and hope and perhaps even forgiveness. We all carry our own versions of Thomas's watch objects, memories, or regrets that weigh heavier with each passing year. But here's the truth that takes courage to accept: the past only has the power we give it. When we cling to what hurts us, we do so by choice, not necessity. Like Thomas, we must ask ourselves, is this weight protecting us or preventing us from moving forward? The lake is always waiting. The choice is always ours.